Margaret Beckett is spearheading the No campaign. She joins me from Nottingham. Jonathan Bartley, whom you saw briefly in that report, thinks we need the change. And it does seem, Jonathan Bartley, that 6 months ago we remember those scenes of protest, the urgency, the real momentum. And now we've sort of got to a stage where we're talking about cuts and redundancies. This looks like a technical luxury, doesn't it?
Well, actually, I think the more people look at the existing system and the small change that we could make to make a very big difference, they're realising that actually the small agenda that we're presented with by the main political parties actually can be changed, that we need more options. When I tackled Cameron, it was a particular issue that I felt passionately about. But for 12 hours after that, 24 hours, we had a debate about special educational needs within the midst of an election campaign. Now, there are so many other issues like that which we need to get on the agenda that never feature. We had an endless rambling about £6 billion worth of efficiency savings, which just seems absolutely meaningless. Actually, if we make a small change to our voting system, we make a huge difference to the agenda of politicians, and that affects people's lives. But you can see that the momentum has gone at the moment. Actually, since the No campaign announced their kind of big political dinosaurs, is that too rude? To back the campaign. We've had a flood of donations, actually, from individuals. And actually shows, I think, that people are starting to engage with the issue. They're starting to see the importance of the issue and starting to see that we can actually make our MPs work a lot harder for our votes, that it's better that you don't just have 30% of people in a constituency electing an MP. You actually have 50%, that MPs actually have to take note of what people say. Let's leave it to Margaret Beckett to decide whether it's rude or not to be called a big political dinosaur. I don't know how you'll take that, Margaret Beckett, but Labour's position on this is rather confused, isn't it? You stood on an AV referendum in the manifesto and now it's all gone.
No, we stood on an AV referendum. The legislation to put through an AV referendum was coupled with massive changes to every constituency boundary, gerrymandering every constituency in the country. And of course, we couldn't consent to that. And it became clear, actually, that the people who had argued that the people of this country want AV and so we should have a referendum, the Liberal Democrats didn't want one at all, because in the coalition negotiations they tried to force both us and the Tories to change the electoral system without having a referendum and without consulting the British people at all. Well, I just wanted to pick up on what Jonathan said in his interview before, where I think he's got it absolutely 100% the wrong way round, is he says we should change the system because otherwise we're leaving power with the politicians. It's making changes so that the politicians negotiate everything after the election that gives power to the politicians and takes it away from the people. Exactly,
you've made my point for me. Thank you very much. In Australia we've had AV for 80 years. They've had 2 coalition governments. Here we've had 4. We're likely to get more coalitions under first past the post, according to that logic.
Complete nonsense, Jonathan, I just ask you, that's not what I said either.
Why is it that you can campaign at a general election on AV? You have AV for internal party elections. In the House of Commons you elect select committee chairs by AV. But suddenly you change your position within a matter of weeks when it actually comes to changing the voting system at Westminster. I mean, you're fighting a general election, in a sense, on a referendum on AV at one point. Months later, you've done a vote fast. Surely it's just pragmatism to secure your own position.
Margaret Beckett.
No, you got it completely wrong again, I'm afraid. We had in the manifesto a commitment to a referendum on AV, because of the argument that the people should be allowed to choose, which the main proponents of that argument promptly abandoned when they thought they could do without it. However, speaking for myself and lots of my colleagues, while we were prepared to stomach having a referendum if that was thought to be necessary, I've never been in favour of AV, and I've always campaigned against it.
But you've just written a letter
so consistently throughout the general election.
You've just written a letter to your own party about using AV in your own shadow cabinet elections, haven't you?
No. Look, we're talking about 2 completely different things.
All right.
In elections between individuals, yes, in all sorts of organisations, people sometimes use AV.
Okay,
in general elections, 3 countries only use it. One of them's about to abandon it, and 2 of them have compulsory voting with fines because you don't vote. Because people hate AVs so much.
Let's just get to the bottom, I think, of one of the points that Jonathan was trying to make. Ed Miliband, of course, was elected under what you could call an AV system. Ed Miliband is still in favour.
Indeed.
Do you not worry that you will look like a split party on this? You have the grandees, some of whom, of course, are not now fighting their seats in the Commons anymore, and you have your leader saying something completely different.
No, I don't worry about it. When I told Ed Miliband that I would back him for the leadership of the Labour Party, I said to him, however, you do know, don't you, that I'm completely opposed to AV and a staunch defender of our present system. And he said, yes, and it's not a problem. There are genuinely different views, and there's no reason why there shouldn't be different views.
And it doesn't necessarily help your cause, of course, Jonathan, that Nick Clegg himself has called this a miserable little compromise. Bernard Jenkins said it's not even proportional. People wonder why you're going to all this bother for something that's not even going to change things sufficiently.
This isn't about what the big politicians think. This is about what the people think. This is a referendum. And we need to get away from the Westminster Village and actually face up to the facts that if we do make that small change to make a big difference, we will have more say over our MPs, we'll have more say over what they stand for. They'll have to work harder for our votes. They'll have to get 50% of us to like them. This is about making MPs accountable and ending this kind of jobs for life mentality which Margaret and her colleagues have.
OK, we've got to end it there.
This is complete nonsense, I'm afraid, and the facts don't back it up.
I'm so sorry we've got to end it there. We've just run out of time, but appreciate you both.